the 7 words that were spoken to the dad who was arrested at the school board meeting. You know this story? Mm-hmm. We broke it on Monday on the Blaze. Do you see this, Pat?
Yeah, about what the cop said to him?
Yeah, New Hampshire man arrested at a school board meeting. He voices his objections to a book. All he says is, I want an opt-out. I want my daughter to be able to opt out of this reading.
And he ran over his time limit, and so they asked the cop to arrest him.
Yeah. So here's what happens. The interview with the Blaze, the dad said the cop's hands were shaking. His hands were shaking so badly that I said to him, what are you so nervous about? I'm the one getting arrested. The cop said, I really just don't want to do this. But he did. He did.
Yeah. That struck me, too.
But he did.
Why?
I'm just following orders.
Yeah, you have to follow orders of a school board if you're a police officer? I don't think so.
No.
Arrest this man. No, he didn't break any laws. I'm not going to arrest him. I'll tell him to quiet down, but I'll stay here and make sure he doesn't get crazy.
Tell him to quiet down. He was sitting there peacefully and calmly.
Yeah,
What's this arbitrary 2-minute talk rule? Since when do you have an arbitrary 2-minute talk rule? Where you're just like, I know, you're paying my salary. You've purchased with your tax dollars every book in this library. Mm-hmm. It's your daughter or your son that in school, but you can only tell me about your opinion for 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's not a huge problem to have some rules so that meetings don't get out of order. Yeah, they can actually get through the business of the time. The thing about it, though, is that you watch the video and the guy's not being disrespectful. He's not being disruptive. He's not being a jerk. He's trying to get the very basic thing of respect for his daughter at school accomplished. And it. If he went a little bit long, I can see maybe someone saying, look, all right, we understand, we'll take it under consideration, but, your time is up. And if he becomes a jerk and starts throwing things, okay, you might have a case to pull him out of the room.
Didn't do any of that.
Didn't do any of that. And certainly there's nothing there to arrest him for, right?
And the police officer may have thought twice if another parent in the room would have said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
How did nobody else stand up?
If one other person would have said, officer,
what are you doing?
That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. It's not right. The man hasn't broken any laws. If one person would have peacefully said, this would have really truly been, and I can't believe that it's not, an iconic moment. Here's a guy who is totally in control. He's not shouting. He's like, come on, man. I'm just trying to get an answer here. All he wants is an opt-out for his daughter. That's what he wants. He's not talking about banning the books, taking the book out of the curriculum. He said, I just want an opt-out for my daughter. Would you give me an opt-out for my daughter? No. Why won't you give me an opt-out for my daughter? What? This is offensive to me. I want my daughter to be opted out of this. Can't give him an answer. Then the cop comes and says, all right, your time limit is up. He's being totally respectful. He's not disrupting the meeting. I'm just looking for an answer here. If other parents would have said, officer, come on, you know better than that. He didn't break any law. There's nothing happening here. We're having a conversation as adults. The schools are so afraid. They are terrified. And so they have to become bullies. Whenever you see something like this, I mean, look, if I'm not afraid and people are, we've had this happen before where bullies show up and try to shout us down or whatever. We've had security come in. I've instructed my security. No, don't. Their job is to keep us safe and to keep us going, and they always recommend you got to remove the troublemakers. And my feeling has always been, no, let them talk. Go ahead, say what you want. We can have a conversation. Say what you want. You want to shout down, then they are going to have to remove you. But if you want to have a conversation with me, I'll have a conversation with you. I'm a reasonable guy. You be a reasonable person. We can even agree to disagree. Whenever you see somebody just bring out the heavies, when people are being reasonable, you know that there's real fear involved. By the way, the government has issued a warning to states that want to opt out. The U.S. Department of Education has just now sent a letter to the Indiana Superintendent of Public Information, Glenda Ritz. that the state must prove its own standards are just as challenging as Common Core, or else lose the waiver from the Bush-era No Child Left Behind law, and its federal funding will also be in jeopardy. So they have to prove, and I don't know if they have to group them in groups of 10 when they prove that. I don't know, but they have to show their work, I'm sure. Because the Indiana Department of Education will no longer implement the standards of Common Core, the IDOE must amend its Elementary and Second Education Act flexibility request and provide evidence that its new standards are certified by a state network of institutions of higher education, and that students who meet the standards will not need remedial coursework at the post-secondary level. Now, here's what's interesting. They will meet the standards and not need remedial coursework. Of course you're going to, because you're going to change the SATs. They're going to gear everything to the Common Core, and to be able to pass the Common Core SAT, you're going to have to be dumbed down. You're going to have a remedial work. You're going to have an additional class just to pass the SAT. So they win. You've gotten into bed with the devil. You have said, we'll take your money, and you can help us with these standards. And then now, if you won't go and play ball exactly the way, then you lose all of that money. And Indiana is saying, now, wait a minute, that's a lot of money. I don't know if we can afford to lose the money. Lose the money. Be in the worst. Be in a classroom where the train tracks actually run through the center of the class if you have to. You'll be better off. Lose the money.